Monday, January 27th. I can't believe we're already on the last Monday of January 2020. Before we know it, the year will be done. But I am, as I told you Friday, I ended last week. And here I am beginning this week, and you're going to see me a couple more times this week. I should just stay in this chair. But for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Diane Gatsis Havinga. I'm excited to be your host today on Village in Motion. And just a little trivia. So the song we played, Volare. Anyone have any clue as to why I decided to play that today? Dun, 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 dun. It could be a brain tease. No? Well, yes, the Grammys were yesterday. And Volare was the first Grammy for Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Anyone want to give a guess as to what year that was? The very first Grammy, when they started. 69 years 60s? Ago. It was 1958. How about that? Little trivia. You can, brag to your grandkids and youngsters. The servers today, when you go to dinner or lunch. You can ask them if they know about that, and they'll, of course, won't. But has nothing to do with our program today. But today, usually at this time of year, we always try to do kind of a year in review, look forward, what we're doing, where we're going for GSV-TV, and today happens to be that day. And I'm going to spend the first half of the program talking about our channels, and then we're going to talk about our guests, but we're not going to show them to you right now because they're just sitting here. Well, then I have to get into other things. But let's first start with, so those of you who haven't figured it out, we've moved our channels. We used to be on an internal network. And then when we went to the Cox cable system, our channels moved. And we've been with the Cox cables since when the whole process started. When was it? October, November. And so we have 3 internal channels that are on the Cox system. I'm going to go kind of in reverse order. We're going to start with 1982. 1982 used to be 1962, thank you, excuse me, used to be the Channel 8 or 8-1. This is the channel that only plays the electronic bulletin board or TV scroll and music. And the music is predominantly produced by one of our wonderful resident volunteers, Chuck Fisher. The Chapel channel is 1964. Formerly known as 2-1 or 2. And the Chapel channel is where you will see 99% of the time the live services that are conducted. So there are 3 main religious groups that broadcast their services. The Catholic groups on Friday morning, the Episcopalian Protestant group on Sunday, and on Monday, so tonight, the Greenspring Fellowship. Now, so not only do we broadcast those programs live while they're happening, but we also rebroadcast them here on 1960. And those services are Monday nights is for the Catholics, Tuesday is for Village Church, and Wednesday is Greenspring Fellowship. So if you can't get to the chapel or you miss the live transmission, you can, as I said, see it here on 1960. So 1960 is the channel that you are watching now, and that is what I call the flagship channel. And the flagship channel features all the actual programs that we produce. And right now we produce on average about 140 new programs each and every month. We start you off with exercise at 6 a.m. in the morning. And we put you to sleep with relaxation and breathing every night from 11 to, it's about 4:30 a.m. in the morning. In between, you have Village in Motion, and I'm going to talk to you about that momentarily. You have a narrative scroll that we transmit, and that's where we have volunteers come in and actually read or narrate the scroll for those of you who have low vision. We have concerts, we have meetings, so kind of everything and anything that happens here on campus. So let's talk a little bit about Village in Motion, the show that you are currently watching. That is our, again, flagship channel, not channel, but program that we air Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. live, and then we repeat it at noon, 4, 7, and 10 p.m. And I took the video camera a while ago and recorded an actual program that was being put together live. So I'd like to share with you some of the behind the scenes. So while you are watching me in the studio, I'm going to show you what's happening behind the scenes. And first we're going to start with where we're located. We're located in Village Square. So if you enter Village Square and you turn to the right by the front desk, you're going to see our banner. It still says Channel 6, don't ask me why. You come into our office and you're going to first come into the control room. Now the control room is the nerve center of any television studio. That's where all the audio and video signals actually come into the various pieces of equipment, and then we mix them together and we send them out to various places. We can send them live to the channel. We could send them to, it used to be videotape, but now everything's done electronically on these actual hard drives and cards. We can do all that simultaneously. And what you're seeing now is the actual studio. And behind the cameras, we have 3 studio cameras. Usually they're all being controlled by resident volunteers. We can't produce this program without you, our residents. And we have 3 cameras, as you can see. The one camera you're seeing right now is camera 1. And camera 1 also serves as a floor manager. And that person is cueing me, the host, to do various things. Usually it's to start. They point to me and say, okay, Diane, start talking. They give me time signals. So it helps me as a host know where I'm at in the various segment or program. They may also tell me to go to a videotape. They may, if we're doing a call-in show, they're going to tell us there's a call, so go ahead and take the call. If we run into a technical issue like, oh, the guest isn't here yet, stretch, they communicate that to me, and they're getting their information from the director. What you're seeing is, again, the control room. So that's where the director and the audio person and the graphic person and sometimes a tape person sits. What you're seeing here is the director cutting the show. So we have 3 cameras, and that's this monitor that the director's looking at. One is the actual air monitor. That's what's going out to you. The other one is a preview monitor, and then the other ones are the camera monitors and the various video sources. Next to the director sits the audio person, and that's where all the audio signals are coming through, and then it leaves from that particular piece of equipment. We have graphics, so every day we put together the graphics for the various programs that we use. We also have a person who helps us with the graphics. So while I am talking to you, the director is essentially talking to the crew. He or she is saying, this is the camera I'm going to, this is the camera that's on. We are now going to a videotape, and they are putting the show together. 2 basic components, video and audio. After the program, we actually then put together a list, just like you do on your, if you have an iPhone and you want to listen to music, you can put together a playlist of all your songs. Well, we do that every day with all the videos. And we actually have all that on a hard drive. And those playlists air every day, 7 days a week, in the order that we have put them together. So all the exercise shows are in the playlist, all the meetings that we are going to transmit to you, and of course, Village in Motion. That's what we do after the show. And we also talk a little bit about what's going on. We have a rundown sheet, which you just saw. What you're seeing right now is the video switcher. That's where all the video signals are coming through. And once again, what you're seeing here is the electronic bulletin board. This is through a program called Touchtown. And right now, we have about, I'm going to say, a dozen plus people who are actually inputting the slides that you see each and every day for the electronic bulletin board. In addition to Village in Motion, we do a narrative scroll, which I talked to you about. This is produced Monday through Friday. After Village in Motion, we have resident volunteers who come in and actually sit in front of the monitor, like you're seeing right now, and they talk about what they're seeing. They tell you what's on the scroll. And they do that as best they can with the amount of time they have, and that's why sometimes you hear a lot of things, and sometimes we edited it out because we only have so much. So that in a nutshell. Did I do okay? Whew. Is a kind of quick behind the scenes. And now I want to introduce two people who have been sitting quite quietly, who are one of our volunteers, and I selected them just because they're the newest volunteers, I think, since we started this.
I think I am.
And so I thought, well, let's get their perspective. A lot of you know, of course, Elke Martin. Elke is volunteering as a host, and Ralph Schuetz, who is our camera person, and he also has started to help us do videotaping of meetings. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of starting to expand in that sense. So welcome. And
thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
I want to talk about volunteers. I mentioned that we could not do this program without volunteers. We've tried, only in the sense when things have come up all of a sudden and we need a crew. Sometimes we do just lock down the camera and hope for the best, but we really like warm bodies behind the cameras and with the audio, and of course in front of the cameras. So let's start with you, Elke. Why did you decide to volunteer for Village in Motion, or I should say for GSV-TV?
Yeah, we are so used to saying Village in Motion, right? Well, you remember I started working here many years ago, and when I ran the volunteer program, I had a monthly show, and I was the guest, and oftentimes Fran Duval was my host, and we had the Fran and Elke show, and we enjoyed it, and it seemed like a lot of people enjoyed it. And so I knew when I then had retired, taken a break, and moved in and become a resident, I knew that I was comfortable in this environment, and I enjoyed it. And the other memory I have is of Marsha Dake. You know, those of us who've been here long enough, of course, know Marsha, who was one of the pioneers here. And I think she, if I remember correctly, she liked to be called the Katie Couric of Channel 6. And she did great interviews. And I think at some point I thought, that looks like something I might want to do. And so when I had moved in and settled down, I thought, well, let's talk to Diane. And I tried it, and I didn't know how much fun it was. I really enjoy it. And then I got great feedback from residents who had watched the show and said they liked it. And then I thought, all right, I'll stick with it. I enjoy it.
And there you go. And maybe it's almost a year, I'm thinking?
I think so.
Just quite a little under a year. So, and we enjoy having Elke. And Ralph, you've been here a little less than a year.
A little less than a year.
For GSV-TV.
And in fact, GSV-TV, or then Channel 6 as I knew it, was probably one of the main reasons I wanted to move to Greenspring, because I had been in the television business for 35 years. Oh. And in fact, I ran camera 50 years ago. So this was, for me, this was just the most wonderful outlet for getting back into the business, kind of. And I am definitely not on-camera talent. I admire our program hosts tremendously for how well they do on short notice, coming in, seeing the guests, and immediately creating a show. But I far prefer being behind the camera. Thank you very much.
Well, I used to say the same way back when I interviewed for the position, and they said, well, you know, you're going to have to be in front of the camera. And I'm like, in fact, I bet vegetarians would say the same thing. No, I'm not. What do you mean I have to be in front of the camera? I don't do that, but obviously I do enjoy it myself and end up in front of the camera a lot more than I ever thought I would, so in terms of that.
And you do a great job.
Well, thank you so much. If you ran into a resident and they were looking for a place to volunteer, what would you say to them?
Speaking as one who lives in Oak Hill, I would say it's a long walk over here. But so if I had known better, I might have decided to live closer because I'm here 3 or 4 times a week.
Or you get your steps in.
I get my steps in. But I would say that you don't have to have been in the business for 35 years to be able to run camera and to do the things that I'm doing. And it's a great group of people. Mm-hmm. And some of them are the same people 2 or 3 times a week. It's a fairly small group of people running camera right now. And I think I'm the newest with probably 8 months of working in the studio. So this is it's a wonderful place to come volunteer. That's all I can say. And I'm really enjoying getting out and working on the remote sites as well for the meetings of the various clubs and organizations.
Right, and
I would say look at what you like to do and what you're comfortable with, and then find something that goes a little further so that you stretch yourself, you learn something new, and lots of like Ralph said, lots of friendly people and helpful people at Channel 6 in the studio, so no need to think you have to come and be perfect.
It doesn't take a lot of training, and yes, perfection is not
right.
the goal.
Well, not perfection.
Or maybe it is.
Well, I always say that I want a clean production and a clear message. Those are the 2 goals that I have. And by clean, we want to be, and we are, in my opinion, as good as anything else you're seeing on the air, especially.
Well, I think all of these awards attest to that, no?
I would hope so, yes. So when you see a Village in Motion, I would put a Village in Motion up against a Today Show, up against the news shows, any live production, and you will see the same quality.
The other thing I'd point out, it's not just Village in Motion, although I know that's what you're talking about now, but for example, Gray Park's show, Troubadour on Friday, right after Village in Motion. That's a pre-tape done once a month where we do all 4 of the shows that are going to air the following month. And there's more room for creativity, both working on the crew and following along with what Gray's doing. So there are lots of other things besides just doing the Village in Motion live show.
Right, and we do the resident council interviews, for instance, when they do the yearly candidates.
We do the interviews for the scholars.
The scholars programs we put together. There's a whole range of various programs, and we're always looking for program ideas. And some of you may say, well, what if I have an idea? What do I do? Just come talk to us. I'm always looking for ideas. Some of them we can't do maybe because of logistics, or it's like, well, this is happening tomorrow. Well,
I know that's how Gray Park's show got started when he came to talk to you.
Right, Gray came and said, I have this idea, and I said, okay, let's see how it's going to play out, and it's now going next, in March, he will be doing this 8 years.
Oh, really?
So who would have thought?
Well, I remember I've had guests here, friends of mine who have had interesting lives or published a book that I thought might be of interest to the residents, and we did a tape, and you put it in whenever, but it felt good, and it brought something from the outside world to Greenspring.
And for the most part, the aim of Village in Motion is to provide information for the residents that which is why we have every member of the executive team come on monthly to talk about what's going on in their neck of the woods. Obviously, the whole construction repositioning. information is a big part of what's going on right now. You know, we cover almost every program and department here on campus to allow those members to share information with residents. And then we try to round out the programming with other things that I think will be of interest. For instance, anything dealing with Fairfax County. So we like to bring in members of Fairfax County Library. We like to bring in the supervisor, the lead supervisors.
I think I had an interview with Senator Barco once.
Right, some of the state senators, the state Congress representatives. Next month we will have the new Fairfax County Supervisor Board Chairperson, who used to be the lead district supervisor. No stranger to anyone here, Jeff McKay will actually come on and do a full program of his transition from being lead supervisor to now controlling the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a great place to learn. As I'm sitting running camera, I'm listening to the conversation going on, and I've learned so much about Greenspring. It's amazing that everybody passes through here. I hope our ratings are really high, because people would learn a lot if they were watching this show.
Well, I hope so too. And let me talk about, speaking of programs, so we do produce a TV guide every week, Thursday, usually Thursday afternoon. And the TV guide right now is in color. Someone said, oh, I really like the color. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, but you know, right now that's what we're doing. You can pick up the TV guide in 3 places. Right outside our studio in Village Square. The 2 cubby areas are at Town Center and Hunter's Crossing. Now, we don't print a lot of them, so when they're gone, but they're also on the Village Bridge. They're on the bulletin boards, and they're also on My Erickson. And so this lists all the topics for the programs that we have. And I always preface it by saying it's subject to change. And we never know when things come up, especially guests. There are times when we think we're going with a certain guest, and last minute we find out, unfortunately, that guest is unable to make it, and that's when we do the switch. So the front of the program is all about Village in Motion, but when you turn it around, it's what's happening the rest of the time. So I mentioned that we start you with exercise at 6 o'clock, so it will list all the exercise programs. It lists the features. And the features can be anything, again, concerts that appear on campus. All the people who come on who do concerts, part of the contract is that we are able to tape them and then rebroadcast them. And so that's another area if you're interested in helping out. You don't have to help out here on Village in Motion or any of the pre-tapes we do, but I know the Entertainment Roundtable is really interested in getting people to come and help them set up the concerts, do AV, but also tape the concerts. And that helps people who can't make it to the concert then be able to participate in and view the concert, and we air those concerts. Meetings, we mentioned the fact that Ralph is helping tape meetings. So those meetings can vary from anywhere from when we have a, as we mentioned, congressperson or a state representative come on. We do our hardest to tape those meetings and occasions, and you know it is, I've been told it's an election year, and the fact that Greenspring has its own precinct, guess what? We get quite a bit of all the candidates running for office coming here on campus. When they come, we're going to tape them. And that gives you the opportunity to not only see them in person, but to see them if you're not able to come. We tape the big meetings, Coffee with the Exec, resident council, we tape them and we try our hardest and we succeed, again, 99% of the time, airing them the following week, so that if you can't make the meeting or you made the meeting but you really wanted to hear again what was said, you can watch it here on channel 1960.
You also train and oversee the projectionist, right?
Good.
Because I'm part of the Cinema Now group, and I run the Jewish-themed movies once a month. And we always need a projectionist, and it's good to have a backup in case somebody gets sick or whatever.
Definitely.
And that comes out of your house.
Right, and I, kind of relating to what Ralph says, we train them. It's not that difficult. It looks really menacing. Oh my God, I have this big board, like all that equipment that I showed you earlier. You're probably going, yeah, I'm going to volunteer. But you know,
only use 5 switches.
right? You're only there.
Yeah, before I went down to run audio and tape the first meeting I did in Acatink room, I was somewhat overwhelmed and apprehensive, but a half an hour with Diane, and I think I knew my way around.
And we're always giving refresher courses to whoever needs them, so it's usually not, you're not using the entire piece of equipment. It's usually, as Elke said, maybe 4 or 5 separate buttons. The same thing with the camera. It looks very complicated, and trust me, I don't know everything about that camera. When things go wrong, I know enough to tell our maintenance engineer, I think this is where you need to look, so that he can then take care of any particular issues. But the things that you use each and every day, you know what those buttons are. And when you run into a problem, every so often someone will say, I can't get, this monitor's not turning on. It's usually, oh, here's the switch. Just switch it on. So, and I want to say, now Ralph said that he started volunteering because he had been in television. But the 3 camera people here that are now helping us, I can guarantee, did anyone work in television? Did you even think you were going to work in television? So there you go. And I always say you get bragging rights when you come in and work for us, because let's face it, when you tell people at dinner, well, I worked camera today, or you tell your grandkids.
Everybody thinks it's pretty cool.
Right. And speaking of grandkids, you know, we love to have grandkids come by. So if you are treating your grandkid to lunch or dinner, well, dinner's probably harder because we're not here, but during the day, feel free to come by. If we can't help you right at that instance, you know, we'll tell you to come back and we'll give you that nickel tour. We love having people come. You can also watch us as we produce the show live, sit in the back and see what we do, and afterwards ask questions. So before I let both of you go, is there anything you want that I missed that I should say?
No, you're perfect, Diane.
I think
It's a lot of fun.
that was my word exactly. I just think it's a great place to have fun, and the people are also nice, staff included, and it's just an interesting place to work.
And you get to say how many hours you want to work.
Right, exactly.
So that's another good point.
Right, if you only want to do twice a month, or I can only do Fridays, or I can only do every other whatever, that's fine. And the live show is the one time constraint where we need people basically between 9:30 a.m. and 10:30-ish, 10:45 a.m. on Monday through Friday. But we do a lot of pre-taping for various things, so there are other opportunities. And as I said, you can volunteer as a projectionist. You can volunteer to help with setting up meetings and taping those meetings. So there are a lot of areas to volunteer. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, Elke.
Thank you.
Ralph.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you to my wonderful crew of volunteers. And when I do say on Friday that all the names you're seeing are the people who make us look good and sound good, I am not lying.